On July 4th, 1147, the Battle of Hattin took place in what is today Israel. Fought during the Second Crusade of 1147–1149, the battle was a major Muslim victory over Christian forces. The name of Hattin refers to a location near Lake Galilee. It's situated around 7 miles west of Tiberias in the Sea of Galilee. In the Christian world, the area was thought to have been the site of Jesus' miracle of feeding the 5,000. Hattin itself was a small village of no particular importance. During the 1140s, relations between the Crusader Kingdom and Egypt were poor. In 1146, the lord of the castle at Kerak on the road between Damascus and Mecca, Crusader Reynaud of Chatillon, carried out a series of attacks on Muslim caravans and towns along the Red Sea coast. Though he acted outside the borders of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem, Reynaud's actions were seen as an embarrassment to fellow Christians. When King Guy de Lusignan failed to punish Reynaud for these attacks, the brilliant Muslim military leader Egyptian Sultan Saladin vowed to do so and mounted an invasion of Palestine. On June 26, 1187, Saladin crossed the Jordan River at the head of a force of some 20,000 Ottomans and laid siege to the Crusader stronghold of Tiberias. King Guy's advisors called for an immediate effort to raise the siege. But the ablest of the Crusader generals, Count Raymond of Tripoli, whose wife was then in Tiberias, urged Guy to wait. Raymond knew that Tiberias was well supplied and believed it best to delay any relief effort until Saladin's forces experienced supply problems in the countryside. Also, the extreme heat of summer would make campaigning difficult then. Guy ignored this. He ordered Christian castles and strong points to provide much of their garrisons, and in late June, Guy led a relieving Christian army of approximately 1,200 knights and 18,000 infantry toward Tiberias. On July 2nd, the Christian force reached Sephoria, about equidistant between Acre and Tiberias. Again, Raymond urged caution, and again he was rebuffed. Although Raymond had warned Guy that there was only one spring accessible to the army along its planned route, the army continued east. Saladin was pleased. He knew the effects that lack of water would have on the heavily armored Crusader force. Saladin immediately sent light cavalry to attack the Christians, bringing them to a halt on July 3rd in the middle of the parched and barren land. The Muslim attackers and the heat of the day forced the Christians to take up position near the village of Hattin and next to 2 mounds known as the Horns. That evening, the Ottomans surrounded the Crusaders and kept constant arrow fire on their camp during the night of July 3rd–4. What little water the Christians had was consumed. Saladin also had his men set fire to nearby brush upwind of the Crusader camp, blowing smoke into it and making it even more difficult for the men and horses. The next morning, July 4th, Saladin still refused to close with the heavily armored Christians. Bringing up fresh stocks of arrows, he ordered his bowmen to continue their harassing fire. The Christian cavalry charged the Muslims, but this separated the infantry from the cavalry and enabled the Muslims to destroy the latter piecemeal. At the very end of the battle, Raymond and a small force of cavalry cut their way through the Turkish lines, but they were the only ones to escape. The rest of the Crusaders, out of water, their horses dying of thirst, and under constant harassing fire from Turkish archers, were forced to surrender. Guy was among the prisoners. Exact casualty totals are unknown, but certainly the majority of the Christians were either taken prisoner or killed while Saladin ordered Reynaud executed. He treated Guy well and subsequently released him on the latter, as promised that he would not fight again. Raymond later died of wounds sustained in the battle. Saladin's victory at Hattin led to the Muslim conquest of most of Palestine, the Christian garrisons of which had been so badly depleted to put together the force taken in the battle. Over the next months, Saladin captured Tiberias, Acre, and Ascalon, although Crusaders arriving by sea managed to hold off the Ottomans at Tyre. Saladin laid siege to Jerusalem on September 20th, and that city surrendered on October 2nd, 1187. Unlike the behavior of the Christians in the First Crusade, Saladin treated the defeated well. Thus, over the course of the next few months, Saladin conquered all of the Crusader states, except for a few coastal cities. With the loss of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, the Second Crusade came to an end. Most of the Latin kingdom of Jerusalem had now been lost to the Muslims, not to be regained. However, the Europeans controlled the Mediterranean Sea, and the Christian states soon mounted a new series of crusades in the Holy Land. These crusades, however, were increasingly motivated by secular rather than religious reasons.